Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I stand before you today to acknowledge the phenomenal work by the men and women of this division that led to the major indictments of the BL gang. I would first like to thank Mayor Ginther, Council, Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, City Attorney's Office, and our community. Thank you for entrusting this team to do our part in reducing group and gang violence within our city. As the First Assistant Chief of Support Branch, I oversee our Special Operations Subdivision, which houses organized crime, which includes units such as gang enforcement, all federal task forces, and our criminal intelligence unit, to name a few. There is extraordinary police work being done. These efforts are not solely those of the personnel within my division, but the dedication of every patrol officer, detective, and professional staff that fuels our mission to dismantle and disrupt group and gangs in the city of Columbus. In mere moments, you will hear about the recent indictments and convictions related to the violent BL gang. However, let me assure you, the BL gang is just one piece of the puzzle. This leadership team remains focused and determined to transform Columbus into the safest big city in America. To those who persist to perpetuate violence and believe that you can outsmart us or that you can outwork us, I issue this clear warning to you. Your time is up. We are utilizing every available resource, both federally and locally, to not only identify you, but anyone else that you may associate with. This is not a threat, but a promise to safeguard the city using every means necessary. The choice lies with you. Lastly, I wish to extend a heartfelt gratitude to our invaluable partners in this ongoing effort. Columbus Violence Reduction, Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children, We Are Linden, Legacy U, Our Brother's Keeper, and Columbus Urban League are instrumental in our collective pursuit of peace and security. Together united in purpose and resolve, we will continue to strive for a safer, brighter future for all residents and visitors of Columbus. I will now introduce Deputy Chief Sagal, who is the Deputy Chief of Special Operations Subdivision, to provide more information. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Sagal. I am the Deputy Chief over the Special Operations Subdivision, which includes our Organized Crime Bureau. First, I would like to thank Chief Bryant, First Assistant Chief Potts, Assistant Chief Bodker, and all of our leadership staff for the collaboration and efforts within the Division of Police leading to the announcements of these indictments. I would also like to thank our partnering agencies, especially the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office. We are here to highlight the efforts to eradicate gang violence in our city and to continue to send a clear message that lawlessness will not be accepted in Columbus. As we do with all of our operations, we use data on violent crime trends supported by citizen concerns to drive our efforts. Officers on Patrol Zone 3 recognized a significant rise in gang activity over the past few years relating to the BL gang and their subsets. These officers, particularly CRT 3 and 10B Company, formulated plans to stop the lawlessness which was affecting the community they serve. Together, they teamed up with detectives from the Organized Crime Bureau's Criminal Intelligence Unit and Gang Enforcement Unit to gather information to document known gang members and their associates. This intelligence was used to arrest and charge these gang members. This collaborative effort allowed a streamlining of information flow throughout the agency and with our partners to ensure swift action against these violent gang members. These efforts do not end today. In fact, our officers are continuing to disrupt violent gangs and send that message that lawlessness will not be accepted here. Last summer, we announced the opening of the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, or CGIC, which is a partnership between federal, state, and local agencies. The CGIC, although not directly involved in any of these indictments, has already proven to speed up investigations and the flow of information between all stakeholders so we can be quicker to disrupt the cycle of violence. This investment of resources in the CGIC is just part of our dedication to continuously improve as an agency and to be more responsive to the community. I would now like to introduce Lieutenant Joe Rich, who oversees our Criminal Intelligence section.
Good afternoon. I am Lieutenant Rich, and I oversee the Criminal Intelligence Unit. Before we bring up Detective Klaus back here, who is by all means the architect of this case, I would be remiss if I didn't briefly talk about how we got here. Cases such as the one you see scrolling on the screen behind you involve an incredible amount of work and meticulous documentation to take place. This case in particular started with a group of dedicated patrol officers who recognized a problem in their area of responsibility. They identified a group whose violent acts were disproportionately affecting 2 apartment complexes on the west side of the city. And they decided collectively that they were going to do something about it. To echo what Chiefs Potts and Sagal have said, this case would not have been possible without the teamwork and collaboration between the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, Zone 3 patrol officers, the Zone 3 Community Response Team, and criminal intelligence detectives. Also, to echo what Chief Potts says, this case is not a one-off for us. With the opening of the Crime Gun Intelligence Center and the quick turnaround of ballistic evidence, we've built partnerships with federal and state counterparts, and we are in a better position than ever to attack these violent groups and gangs. So with that, I would like to bring up Detective Eric Klaus.
Hi, my name is Eric Klaus. I'm a detective with the Columbus Police Criminal Intelligence Unit. I was a case manager on this case since 2021 when we started this. I want to make one thing perfectly clear. This was a case that was made based on violence. As others have said, we saw a severe uptick in violent crime in South Park apartments and Wedgwood apartments. We said, hey, what are we going to do about it? Who's responsible for this sort of thing? We immediately knew who the culprits were. It was a gang known as BL 800. They ruled these areas, and they controlled the areas through threat of violence and just kind of plagued the area by really controlling it to the extent that we couldn't get good cooperation from victims and witnesses in different crimes. We were having all these incidents. We had great evidence, we had great scenes, we were ready to go forward, and we were finding that victims and witnesses were very afraid to come forward. And we understood why. I mean, as police officers, we're frustrated, but as human beings, we have to have empathy for some of that. So we took this upon ourselves to say, hey, what can we do that puts everything on us, to put onus on us? And this is what we came up with, a collaborative effort to do this exact project. What you'll see with some of these guys, you'll see a lot of charges, like you'll see weapons under disability, you'll see theft, you'll see receiving stolen property, things like that. Make no mistake, these guys were almost every one of these guys that we've charged or indicted is involved in much more violent crime. Crimes that we had good cases against them, we couldn't always prove it because we don't have witnesses and victims. So this is what we came up with, and we charged them with what we could because they're still dangerous individuals. We know who they are, and we have to get them out of the community to where they're plaguing these people and just victimizing everyone. So we charged them we need 2 underlying predicate felonies to charge a gang case, and then we charge them with an additional gang charge as being part of this criminal gang. So we saw them in Wedgwood and South Park really battling it out with rival gangs. We saw them victimizing innocent citizens. We saw all sorts of violence from this group. So the big question was, I know it's confusing to see the BL 800 up here, what their name is. One thing you have to understand before we even get into that is we have different Somali refugee communities in Columbus. The refugee community on the north side of Columbus is very different than the west side of Columbus. On the west side, you have what's known as the Bantu, and where the other ends of town are typically referred to just as Somali. They're completely different cultures, speak different dialects, everything. There's a lot of social strife between those two groups. We've seen that manifest itself here in Columbus with back and forth murders and shootings between those groups. But what we're dealing with in this group was the Bantu. The Bantu were what controlled Wedgwood and South Park. The name of BL originally stood for Bantu Life or Bantu Love is what they called themselves. They quickly pulled off of that when we started asking questions and saying, hey, what does that mean? They named themselves Brotherly Love. And they said that to kind of be non-threatening. They wanted it to come across as something we underestimate. They're a bunch of friends that are brothers. How could they possibly be a criminal street gang? Well, they're wrong on that, but that's what they call themselves to this date, is brotherly love. So they were made mainly of anywhere from 14, 15-year-old up to 25-year-old Bantu males that lived in these apartment complexes. But as they took over and spread violence, you had non-Bantu members wanting to join this gang. As you had non-Bantu members, even though they're called brotherly love, that B, underlying B, stands for Bantu. The new members that were not Bantu cannot call themselves BL because they're not Bantu. Therefore, they came up with the name 800. 800 refers to the 800 block of Wedgwood Drive where this gang was founded. That's a kind of a catch-all name that everyone can use. So you will see the non-Bantu members of this gang using 800, but you will not see them using BL. And that's why you're going to see BL hyphenated 800. It's two separate names to accommodate the Bantu and non-Bantu members of this gang. This gang is unlike any other gang I've ever worked. I've been on the West Side for 20 years and worked every gang that's appeared in that time. Their method of operation is completely different. It is completely different. They basically perpetuate a lot of theft. They are not necessarily drug dealers, although we have got drug charges on these individuals. But as you can see, we basically put together a case that we could top off with gang charges. That was the main thing we wanted to do to make sure that we were taking the most dangerous offenders off the street and perpetuating it for these crimes. We worked with the prosecutor's office. We worked with CRT3. We worked with 10B Company, and we worked with Franklin County Sheriff's and ATF also. I can't say enough good things about the prosecutor's office. They really helped us on this. Our best move that we could do was go to them first off and say, how do we build this case? It was tough. The first 13 guys we had 10,500 pages of documentation on these guys. We have a 150-page criminal predicate statement stating what this gang's about. But through all the help and the collaboration between everyone, we were able to put a good case together, and here's 20 of them here. We actually have 21. We have 21 charged, indicted, or convicted, with Salah Jelani being another one recently for murder. We have another few that's going to come in the next few weeks probably, and we're not going to stop. I mean, it keeps going and going and going. We have to take out the leadership of this gang. We have to take out the framework of this gang if we're ever going to accomplish something. So we're getting somewhere, and it's a start. So with that, I want to pass it on to Prosecutor Pearson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anthony Pearson. I'm Deputy Chief Counsel for the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office. I stand before you and the community with a profound sense of responsibility and determination. That determination is singular in its focus. That determination is to keep our community safe. That is our goal, that is our mission, and we will not stop until we have accomplished that. And we have some of the best prosecutors in the state of Ohio. I stand by that. Dedicated men and women who are dedicated to keeping our community safe. And they took on this mission, they took on this challenge to go after gangs. We have a major crimes unit that works really closely with the men and women that you see behind me and with the Columbus Police Department. And what we did is we got together. We had discussions, collaboration, planning, to effectively take down this gang. Now, the gang is not completely obliterated, but we are making great strides in not only taking down the BL gang, but other gangs as well. We are dedicated to keeping our community safe. This gang, or no other gang, would be a scourge to our community. We will not allow that to happen. We're too dedicated to keeping our community safe. So, I want to talk about some of the charges that have been levied against these violent gang members and some of the years in prison that they are looking at. So we have Aiden Abdi. He was 29 years old. He's looking at a maximum of 6.5 years in prison. Abdul Akar, he's looking at 10.5 years in prison for participating in a criminal gang, receiving stolen property, improper handling of a firearm, and obstructing official business. Abdi, he was convicted of participating in criminal gang, a weapons under disability charge, and other charges. He's looking at 10.5 years in prison. Abukar Yaqub, looking at 10 years in prison. Elijah Goolsby, looking at 7 years in prison for participating in a criminal gang. Bilal, he's looking at 7 years in prison. Now, these are charges that didn't come overnight. These charges involved planning, cooperation, strategic partnerships. And that's what our office is committed to. Strategic partnerships with the Columbus Police Department, the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, and any other law enforcement agency. Moving down the list, Omar Kalanga, he's looking at 6 years in prison. He was convicted of participating in criminal gang and weapons charges. Omar Aden is looking at 3 years of supervision. Benjamin Face, he's looking at 5.5 years of prison. Hussein Abdi, he's looking at almost 11 years in prison. And these are individuals, not a single one of them is 30 years old. So someone may look at this and go, oh, 10 years in prison, that's not a huge length of time, but it's over half the years that these people have been alive. And it certainly sends a message to the community that we're going to do what it takes to keep you safe. And to the gang members, anyone who is thinking about participating in a criminal gang, recruiting other gang members, it is not worth it, because we are dedicated to coming after you and eliminating criminal gangs in Ohio. Not only the BL gang, but other gangs as well. See, this is only the beginning. We have other investigations, we have other gang members that we are going after. So with that, I just want to, in closing, say that if you're part of the BL gang or any other gang, you have really 3 options. Turn your life around and leave the gang nonsense behind. End up as a victim in a gang-involved murder or shooting or something like that in a wheelchair. Or be prosecuted and spend a significant portion of your life behind bars. Again, I want to thank the Columbus Police Department for having the courage and willing to use the manpower and resources that it takes to go after these gangs. Because gang activity is not like regular criminal activity. It involves partnerships, it involves strategic planning, and it involves execution. And I'm thankful that we were able to accomplish those here. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to introduce Sergeant Gruber.
Thank you. Little background on my role and my involvement going forward. I'm the gang enforcement sergeant. Additionally, myself and my team are a part of the Crime Gun Intelligence Center that a few have spoken about here before me. As we're wrapping up, I just wanted to reiterate a few points. First, these officers did a fantastic job on this case, but as a reminder, the case is not over. If you are a BL gang member and you decide to continue to commit acts of violence in the city of Columbus, you will face the same level of investigation and prosecution as you see here today. Second, this is not an isolated incident. We as a division are committed to disrupting and dismantling violent criminal street gangs and groups. There will be more gang cases to come. There will be many more indictments to come, and that will be evident in likely the next few weeks. Thank you. Chief.
Thank you. So we'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Detective, if I can ask you, Wedgewood and South Park are both known for being two of the most violent apartment complexes in the city. What impact are these arrests going to have on the law-abiding citizens who live there?
Hopefully it has a huge impact. We still have work to do. We're in there every day. There's a Wedgewood enforcement team that we also have in there right now, and they're being extremely productive. We are seeing them sort of. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We've got work to do, but they're sort of on the run as far as the gang goes. But we're going to be in there every day, continuing to work. We are seeing a slight downtick in the shootings and the violence right now. But like I said, I don't want to say too much. We got to stay on. We got to stay on it. But we're seeing the leadership's leadership's taken out. Now you're going to have another group that rises, but we're on top of them too, and we have the framework now set up where we can be successful in the future.
How long has this investigation been going on?
2021, I can say I've probably been working this another 3 years on top of that, so it's been a while.
Do you expect any kind of retaliation or anything?
A retaliation against us or?
Yeah, or maybe the area, any other communities, maybe just because these people are taking out other groups, anything like that?
You're going to see other groups. You're going to see other groups emerge. This came about because of violence between gangs too. South Park has its own gang known as 700. They named themselves 800 partially to one up the gang in South Park as a dig at them and back and forth shootings there. They feud with the other Somali gang known as 777, named after an apartment complex out west called River Point. So you're going to see that. You're going to see it continue, unfortunately, but we're going to be there every step of the way. And by them seeing this, it shows them we're not going to stand for that. So.
I think a couple of years ago there were about a dozen or so arrests of BL 800.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, in terms of progress, how much of them are left that you can talk about? How big of a dent is this?
We have 12 of the 13 convicted already. The only one still remaining is Hussein Bilal, and that's because he has a murder charge, so that case is more drug out. But we have 12 of those original 13 are all convicted. We didn't even go to court on any of them. They took a plea deal because I said we had 10,500 pages of documentation on those guys. We have similar documentation on the next 8 that we have. We have another few coming. So we've been extremely, extremely successful on this so far.
With just some of them getting 6 to 10 years, what's the plan when they get out and go right back to it?
We're going to be on them right from the jump. There's not going to be any let up. I'm here 8 hours a day, 5 or more days a week, and so is the rest of these guys. There's always somebody here, and we're going to be waiting for them when they get out. We know who they are. Half the battle is identifying them and identifying what they're all about. Now they're documented too. All we have to do now is update their documentation. It's much less labor intensive.
And if I could say something, this message is for the community. We can't do this work without the community. It took brave community members to give us information, who continue to feed us information, not just in patrol, but in organized crime, our major crimes unit. And so my ask for the community is continue to feed us those information. As you can see, this leadership team is committed to dismantling gun violence in the city of Columbus, but we need our partnerships in the community. And we can't do this without our community giving us those tips. We assure you that every tip that you give us, we will follow it, we will lead it to where it gets us a conviction, and then we want to see federal time or state time for each individual who creates fear in our community. What we want the criminals to fear is us coming after them. That is the point of this news conference, and we will continue to share as we continue to indict violent members of these groups and gangs. We are not playing this game anymore. Lawlessness in Columbus is ended, and this team behind us, we are committed constantly, daily, to disrupting, finding out who you are, and we will not just stop at you. We will find out who you associate with, and we will disrupt them. We will make living in Columbus and perpetuating violence here not sustainable, and that's the message for today.
It's about this.
Thank you.